All right, so this video is an explanation video or summary video, if you will, of this past semester in Education 4400 with Dr. Currie-Knight. And I'm going to discuss the 3 project workspaces that we had in detail, how I came about each project, the outcome, maybe what they started out as and then ended as, the struggles that I had with them, and details like that. And then after I discuss the projects individually, I'm going to talk about how I implemented the Standard 9 into each project. Before I discuss the projects, I do just want to throw out there that this class was very beneficial for me in various ways. I think that it allowed us as students to grow individually as learners, and it also gave us the chance to do group learning, such as Socratic Seminar, working together as partners, as the critique groups. It just really helped us in, I think, more ways than one. And I think that it definitely will be beneficial for us in the future, looking back at this class and what we learned. And so I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because I know that there was talk about making it an online course, and I do think that it is beneficial as a face-to-face. I mean, I understand if it is already set in stone for online, but I do think this class is very beneficial and I enjoyed it very much. So I wanted to put that out there. Anyway, moving on. This class was very experimental for me regarding the projects. I went into each project with a goal in mind, an idea, and by the end of each project, it was nothing like my original plan. For instance, the first project, I'll just go ahead and talk about the first project. So I went into the first project. Basically, at first I was really concerned and I didn't have an idea. I wasn't quite sure of what to do, what I felt passionate enough about to work on something for 3 weeks straight. And I sat down and I talked with Dr. Currie-Knight and explained this concern with him. And he just basically said, find something that you're truly passionate about and think about something or something that you know something about, a little bit about, but want to know more, or go completely off the wall and do something that you've never really known before or struggle with growing up in school, and something that you can learn more about and implement maybe in your career path that you're in now. And so I got to thinking, and my story is a little different than the traditional art student. I actually was special ed before I changed to art education. So I thought, ding, 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 adaptive art. And so I had a little touch in adaptive art when I was in the special ed curriculum because I've always been a creative person. At that time, I wasn't really sure. I knew that I wasn't positive about the major, and I was painting on my spare time. So I knew that wasn't the exact major for me, but I was passionate about those children. And so when I made the switch, I knew that I wanted to implement some type of adaptive form of art for those students. So for project one, I decided to research adaptive art, what it truly is, what organization definition is there for adaptive art, what do other teachers find adaptive art to be, and then through that I would find my own definition. And then on top of the definition, I wanted to look up the benefits of adaptive art to students, to teachers, to parents. And then also from the benefits, I wanted to research materials that teachers use for their students with various needs, whether it be physical needs, emotional needs, stuff like that. So at first I wanted to do a research paper, and I started typing and quickly realized, no, this is not what I want to do. I'm a visual learner. I'm an art major. And so I ended up doing a PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint was just a lot more fun, and I could be a little creative when it came to slides and add color, because that's my go-to all the time, is adding color, making it more entertaining and informative, but not boring in a way. I'm just not a paper writer nor reader, so So I went with the PowerPoint, and in that PowerPoint, I did exactly what I explained to you. I defined what adaptive art was. I figured out benefits, various benefits with various materials used, and I put that into a PowerPoint. And I think it was very successful, and I will definitely look back at that PowerPoint within my future career just for things to look back at, what to implement, and I definitely want to implement an adaptive art class within my future teaching job, school, wherever, if they don't have one. So, okay, that was project 1. So project 2, it was a continuation of project 1. Project 2 is definitely my favorite. It was the time that I was most experimental. It definitely was the one that took a complete left turn. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started. So I'll just talk about that right now. So at first I wanted to do another PowerPoint, but in this PowerPoint, I was going to research or look up lesson plans from other art teachers, or if like certain websites had lesson plans available for the adaptive art curriculum, I was going to use those as examples. But however, I couldn't necessarily find lesson plans online for the adaptive art because in today's time, adaptive art is more so for the experience rather than content, especially for your more severe and profound students. So there's not many adaptive art lesson plans out there just available for anyone. Now there are lesson plans that teachers have put in, modified and adapted parts of it in there, but there was never truly like a full-on adaptive art lesson. So what I originally was going to do was use a lesson that I researched or found, and then from that use tips and tricks and little ideas and create my own. And those were going to be in the PowerPoint. And I also was going to make one of the materials that I listed in project 1, 1 or 2 of those materials, I was going to make them in project 2 and take process pictures and put those into the PowerPoint. And those materials were going to be DIY, which means, I don't know if you've ever heard that, but it's do it yourself. And so I was basically thinking of like teachers on a budget, because adaptive art materials can be very expensive, especially if you're not paying attention. One paintbrush, one thick paintbrush for someone with muscle problems or it can't physically hold a normal skinny paintbrush. A thick end paintbrush is anywhere from $15 to $30 for one. So just cost-effective ways that you can trim down budgets or cost of those materials for your teachers. So as I was making the PowerPoint, I also had this wild, crazy idea to take a demonstration video. And so I just set my phone up, started recording. I was making one of the materials, and I finished it and watched it, and I was like, that's actually really cool. And so then it got me thinking, because I see demonstration videos all the time online, everywhere. And so I looked up what's the best way to edit a video to fast track it or fast pace it. And then how do you add word, or I guess the term is over lip or over talk. Sorry, wow, not technical person at all. But I added in speaking, voice on top of it, and I used iMovie. I completely taught myself how to use it. It was very interesting. It was like at 1 a.m. I was learning this. Dr. Currie-Knight talked about in class one time flow, like when you're on a focus flow and you can't stop. And that's how it was. It was just, I was so interested and so intrigued, and I ended up doing like 5 videos that night and doing the override with my voice and editing and adding music to the background. It was really cool. And so, yeah, I just started recording, making all those materials, and then I had all these videos edited, and I was like, what am I going to do with these? So then I decided to make a YouTube channel, and I named it Art Ed Talk with Hannah. And so this is something that I will use for forever. It'll definitely be something that I can use in my future classroom, and it will allow students to look at demonstrations of projects that maybe they didn't quite understand in class. They can go home and they can look at the videos and grasp it more. Or maybe a parent wants to know what we're doing in class, or if I have an idea or a tip or trick that I'll just put up there, for other art educators. So I think it'll be a cool outlet for not just my students and for other educators, but for parents in the community, and something that I definitely can continue throughout the course of my career. So I made all those videos, and then at the end of making the materials, I did create my own adaptive art lesson called Funky Paper Tacos. You'll have to watch the video to understand that more. But yeah, I did the demonstration for that and discussed how you can correlate it to a content for your general education curriculum if you wanted to. And it was just a really cool project that took a completely different turn, and it ended up being one of the coolest things I've ever done. And so I'm pretty proud of that one, and definitely will continue that on throughout my career. Okay, and then project 3, it was also a continuation of projects 1 and 2. This one was not as much research, just because it was a website. I knew exactly from the start what I wanted to do, and I used Google Sites for it. Very easy formatting system, not hard at all. It gave you like ideas for each page on how to design it. All the themes were well thought out and placed on the site, and so I didn't have any trouble doing it. So what I did was I compiled all the information from project 1 and 2, everything from the PowerPoint, the definitions, the benefits, listed all the details underneath that, the pictures I found of materials used, teachers' quotes, what teachers say about adaptive art, stuff like that. I put all of that in there. I also put a personal touch in there, basically getting to know me page in there about my personal experience with adaptive curriculum, with art in general. I put my paintings in there, which is really neat, just to give the viewers just a personal touch of who's behind the screen. And then I ended up putting in my YouTube channel videos as well. So it literally has everything that I did during this class in there. And I think, again, this is going to be a really cool outlet for my parents and with parents to my future students in my future career, for my students. And it's just a great teacher philosophy type source that I can use at any given time, and building up that rapport with other other art teachers in the world, wanting to know like how to go about adaptive art or how to go about certain things within their classroom. And so I just think it's a really good thing that I did, and all of them went together. And that was kind of for my sanity. I kind of wanted them to go together as one, kind of as a unit. So I hope that kind of made sense, me describing them. Each of them were very interesting and exciting in their own way. I learned so much, and I think it's so cool that we were able to choose what we wanted to do. There are not many courses at all, if any, that allow you to choose your projects. And so I just really appreciated that and enjoyed the creative freedom of doing that. And so, yeah, those were projects 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how I implemented the Standard 9 into each project. So under Standard 9, the first point is the teacher engages in ongoing professional learning. I believe that all 3 of my projects allowed me to accomplish this part. With project 1, I researched what adaptive art was and all of its benefits. And I definitely believe that this will allow me the ongoing professional learning, because I am now 100% hooked on adaptive art. I will 100% try to implement that program into whatever school that I am in. A lot of schools, what they do is they will have a integrated system. So they'll have like 1 or 2 students in the special ed curriculum integrated into a general ed curriculum with other students. And that's okay, but it's not what most art teachers desire, just because art is very different than, let's say, a science or math class, because when those students are in there, you're modifying the lesson, which is what I do in art, but there's less materials involved. In art, we have paintbrushes, we have paint in general, we have pointy things, sharp objects like scissors, we have pencils, which, I mean, you have that in a traditional classroom too, but there's just a lot more things involved and a different type of thinking that's involved when it comes to art versus a science or math classroom. And so I personally believe that having a separate class for the adaptive art curriculum students is the better choice out of the two. Now, I know with time restraints and just scheduling in general, not every school will be available to do that, but I will try my hardest to implement it, because I think it's so important to give those students the same amount of time and the same amount of focus and just time in general. Give them that time to help them, the time to communicate what they're doing wrong, or maybe what they can work on, or what they're doing right, what looks great with their pieces. They want to know, just like your general curriculum students do. And so giving them the opportunity to express themselves in a way that maybe a traditional student would think that they couldn't. Their voices need to be heard too, and art is just a great way to do that. And so I think that implementing a class like that will be awesome in my future career. I also will be continuously researching ways to meet my unique students' needs. And so that's another way how I'm going to continue to engage in professional learning from Project 1 especially. Project 2, like I said earlier, the really exciting one, with the YouTube channel, that is something that I will definitely continue in my future endeavors, whether it be demonstrations or tips and tricks or lessons or whatever it would be. I definitely will be able to share knowledge with teachers, parents, students, administration, organizations, whoever wants to view it. And I just think it'll just be a super cool way and modern way of expressing that. So yeah, that right there, that project was so fun for me, and I definitely will continue it. I don't know if the name will stay Art Ed Talk with Hannah or what, but we'll see where time takes me. And as well with the Project 3 with the website, that will definitely be continued throughout my future teaching career. Now, this one was geared towards adaptive art. From what I learned from this one with creating a website, I definitely know multiple ways to do that and to add personal touches to it, and the themes and font. There's a lot that goes into building a website. I give kudos to graphic designers who do it. It is intense, especially ones that are neat and informative but not distracting. And so I learned a lot with that website building process. And so I will definitely use that within my professional learning throughout my teaching career as well. Okay, part 2, the teacher uses evidence to continually evaluate their practice, particularly the effects of his or her choices and actions on others. So learners, families, and other professionals. So this one's just basically talking about the sources that you used within your projects. So when it comes to my projects, for the most part, they were very experimental, especially 2 and 3. But the researching part was mainly found within project 1. And so the main sources that I used to find my research on the true definition of adaptive art and the benefits and how I came up with my own definition and stuff like that, I used the site called INASCO. And then there was also another organization called Schoolyard that had a lot of different tips and tricks, and then also various quotes from teachers, art lessons, the materials, the benefits laid out for you. They were very detailed and very helpful. And then I also found various articles such as The Intersection of Arts Ed and then Special Ed by an Adaptive Art Specialist by Susan D. Losel. That was very helpful. She knew her stuff. She gave me a lot of ideas for my future teaching career and how I could implement it into my classroom. And they were very helpful sources. As far as the sources for projects 2 and 3, it was just a lot of YouTube videos, ironically, that I was able to see how other people created their own channels or how they edited in iMovie. And then also I looked up articles on website building, and I looked at YouTube videos regarding Google Sites in general, the actual Google Sites and how they work it. So those were more exploratory. So there wasn't many scholarly articles or websites that I used. It was mainly just YouTube for that. I was able to talk with my clinical teacher of her experience with adaptive art, and she has the integrated styles. She has like 1 or 2 students in each class that she has during the day that are in a special ed curriculum, and that come and they sit and they have a assistant with them. So a lot of the time when that happens, they're not doing what the other students are doing. They're doing a completely different project, and they're not getting as much attention as the general curriculum students are, just because there's one art teacher. And so that is why I do want to implement the single adaptive art class where they can come in and be separate from the general curriculum students. But yeah, that's part 2, and it's just talking about the sources and how I used that. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so part 3 of the Standard 9 standard. The teacher adapts practice to meet the needs of each learner. So this part of the standard was kind of easy for me, considering every project that I had the word adaptive in it. So all of my projects had to do with adapting art curriculum for students for their various needs. And so I definitely was able to adapt the practice to meet the needs of each learner. And so my entirety of each project and the basis for it was researching ways to make sure that each student feels welcomed, each student feels as equally successful as the next, and that they're given the chance to do that, whether it be being able to hold a paintbrush, or being able to see the smartboard, or being able to just do everything that a normal general curriculum student could do. And that way, you know, there's not this, that way they just feel like they're equal with their students. And so it's just very important for me to make sure that they don't feel less than, and that they can reach the potential that I know that they can achieve. And so, and I've seen how my clinical teacher has done this with her classroom. Now, she has explained to me, and how I've kind of mentioned it, how it is more difficult to have an integrated class with her students. However, she has given them she has adapted the lessons for them, certain lessons, that is. Now, if it's a 4-week lesson that's very intricate and very detailed and takes a lot of work, she probably will not give them that same lesson. But if it's like a 2-day lesson and she feels confident that they can do it in their own way, then she will adapt the lesson for them and give them different materials. So for instance, one of the lessons was they had to use hot glue. The students used the hot glue gun for gluing on a wooden bead to a clothing pin. They made dolls. So what she did for her adaptive art students was she gave them paper and a glue stick versus the wooden bead and the clothing pin. And that way it's easier for them to hold. It's not going to hurt them because they couldn't really clamp the hot glue gun, and just the thought and the logistics of them, if they were to hit their thumb with the hot glue gun, it would not be good. And so she did the glue stick. And she also has this thing called spongy glue, and she has poured glue into sponges, literally, in a plastic container, and she puts a lid on it every day in class. But they literally take their piece of paper and dab it in the glue, and they can glue it to another piece of paper. And so I've seen various ways where she has adapted lessons in her classroom, and she's definitely given me some ideas on how I can successfully and cost effectively and just easily do these things to adapt my classrooms for these students. So yeah, that every project that I did discussed that. And they were all so beneficial for me. I have learned so many things about myself as a future educator, professionally and personally. And it just allowed me to have that chance to dive into something that I am passionate about, and integrating my two passions, and sharing that with students of all disabilities, of all cultural backgrounds, just various learners in general. I think it's very important to give everyone that individual chance to reach their potential and to express themselves through art. And so I definitely think that my projects implemented the Standard 9, and I had a great time doing them. And so that's pretty much it. I look forward to my future as a teacher, and I definitely will look back at these projects and the Standard and just this class as a whole to be more successful in my teaching. So I just want to say thank you for that, and thank you for an awesome semester, and Merry Christmas.